Welcome to Stand Up, Fight Back, your author interview podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Today, I want to announce the next two guests on the program, but first, I want to tell a quick story. I was on the bus ride home today from work, and I was just, listening to Taylor Swift's new album. I'm just kind of doing my own thing, and I heard, just vaguely from somewhere to the left of me, anti-capitalist. And so, of course, I took out one of my earbuds and I looked around, and it was a young kid, maybe like 14, and a young man, maybe 17 or 18, and they were sitting there talking about organizing an anti-capitalist protest or an anti-capitalist movement of resistance at their schools. I guess one of them, I think, was either just starting high school or just about to start high school. And the other one, I think, had just started college, or like community college or some sort of higher education. And, they were talking about starting a anti-capitalist movement at their public schools. And they had, people recruited, they had scheduled meetings in the past, it sounded like, and I was really impressed, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool what they're doing. And then the young, maybe 14-year-old young man said, we need to have at least 5 people at these meetings because it's not worth my time going. And the other guy was like, well, you don't have to go to all of them. And he was like, well, yeah, I do, because if I don't go, everyone's just going to agree with what those anarchists have to say. I have to show our Marxist point of view off. And so I put my Taylor Swift back in my ear after that. It's cool that young folks are doing things, but it was a good lesson in how we need to keep on with our efforts not to repeat the same mistakes of the past. So with that in mind, I want to talk about our next two guests. A week from today, we will hear from James Tracy, author of Dispatches Against Displacement, which is actually a really good book, talking about all of the different strategies and efforts to combat displacement and gentrification in San Francisco. And it's especially focused on what worked and what didn't work, strategies that failed, strategies that led to short-term successes but maybe didn't lead to longer-term successes. And it's a very introspective book, and I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. You can get that at AK Press. And then I'm excited to announce 2 weeks from next week, so 3 weeks from today, our next guest will be Gabriel Kuhn, who is an author out of Sweden. He previously wrote the books Sober Living for the Revolution and All Power to the Councils, both out of PM Press. But we're going to talk this time around about his new book out of PM Press, Turning Money into Rebellion, The Unlikely Story of Denmark's Revolutionary Bank Robbers, which should be a really interesting narrative account of how a group of like third world liberation activists and like radical Marxists out of Denmark robbed a bank and used that money, it seems, to support these third world liberation movements that were happening at the time of the bank robbery. So I haven't read it yet. I'm really excited to. It looks like it's going to be a fun story, as well as a really good retrospective of all of these movements around and thought and critical thinking around third world liberation movements and the support in the West for them, and maybe where some of that went wrong and some of it went right. So it's gonna be an interesting conversation and an interesting book. So again, that's Turning Money into Rebellion by Gabriel Kuhn, and it's out of PM Press. Links to this book and also to the book by James Tracy, Dispatches Against Displacement, will be made available on fightbackpodcast.com, Stand Up Fight Back's website. As always, if you like the show, if you like the program, please rate and review on iTunes. You can subscribe as well on iTunes or on YouTube, whichever you want. And thank you all so much. I'll see you all in a week. Cheers.